The next 2 hours, I'll be handling the first hour of the live desk, Mary Stoker-Smith, the second today. We give you a quick look outside. You can see the after effects of some wildfire smoke hanging over Lake Michigan there. The hazy skies, but it is clear with the sun shining today, which we need after all that flooding we had over the weekend. We'll definitely have some reports from that from our crews around the area today. Some other local stories we'll bring you. But first and foremost, we want to get you out to the White House because the President of the United States just sat down at the desk of the Oval Office there. Discussing a number of things ahead of a very big meeting with Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Alaska. So let's listen in to the president right now live from the Oval Office here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Chase had a storied career. Then he went to First Data. For those in the business, you'd know it's the largest payment company anywhere in the world. And worked for Henry Kravis, and it was in big trouble. He took it over as CEO. He made it incredible. They merged with Fiserv, and he became CEO of that, and that became extremely successful. I was in Milwaukee. I guess they have the Milwaukee Arena, and where we had some good success and some good speeches. But he's a really legendary guy, and he wanted to do this. I mean, he just wanted to straighten out Social Security because he loves our country. And what he's done in a few months is amazing. Almost 60 million American seniors rely on Social Security for peace of mind and a life of dignity and retirement. These Americans paid into the system, and they deserve leaders in Washington who are going to protect the benefits they've had and protect Social Security. Under Biden, Social Security went down like nobody's ever seen. It deteriorated. There's never been anything like it. The 4 years of Biden were very, very destructive. It couldn't have gone on much longer. Social Security was going to be destroyed. It was being destroyed. The average call wait time reached an all-time high of more than 42 minutes. Field office wait times were at 32 minutes, which is unheard of, and the disability claims backlog was the longest ever in recorded history. In other words, it was run just like the country was run. It was run really badly. But I'm pleased to report that under our leadership, and Frank in particular, the changes he's made and what he's done is sort of a miracle. Sort of like what happened with the country as a whole. Field office wait times are now down 30% since last year, and it looks like it's going to a total record number. And the record was set in a long time ago when the world was a lot different place. We're gonna beat that record. Call wait times are down 73% while serving twice as many customers per day. The disability claims backlog is down 26%, and seniors now have 24/7 online access to their accounts, which they never had before, whereas under Biden, the website was down 29 hours a week for maintenance purposes. It was essentially not open very much. They were always maintaining it, but they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They had a person running that had no idea what they were doing. Among my very first acts was to order all government employees to return to the office or be removed from the job, which means our Social Security offices are now open for full business hours 5 days a week. So unlike being shut down all the time, we're open at record levels also. We're making it really great for the people that want and demand Social Security, and they paid into the system. They deserve it. Last month, I signed one big, beautiful bill and allowed no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, okay? So how's that? Not bad, right? No tax on Social Security for our seniors. And to protect our benefits, we've already kicked nearly 275,000 illegal aliens off of the Social Security system. These are people, many of them have already left the country, and yet we were sending them checks all the time. And 275,000, and that number's now even larger than that, Frank. It's an unbelievable job. And what that's doing is making the system strong. It's making it strong. Biden never kicked anybody off. Everybody joined. And we're carrying out historic deportations to remove many more illegals committing Social Security fraud. It's the Social Security fraud that was taking place at levels that nobody's ever seen. We cleared 12.4 million names listed in the Social Security database. Over 120 years of age. Think of that. So we had 12.4 million names where they were over 120 years old. Is that right? That's a hell of a statement. I have a feeling, Dan, that's not really gonna, that really didn't happen, did it? So you have 12.4 million names listed in the Social Security database that were over 120 years of age, meaning you were breaking records, because I've never heard of anybody at 125. There were nearly 135,000 people listed who were over 160 years old, and in some cases getting payments. So somebody's getting those payments, and we're after that. We're also fighting the menace of inflation to make life more affordable for American seniors, and we've ended Biden's inflation nightmare. So we had the worst inflation in the history of our country, and now our inflation is down to a perfect number, a beautiful number, hardly any at all. And yet our country is taking in tens of billions of dollars and trillions of dollars, actually trillions of dollars in tariffs. You know all about it. It's been amazing. They say, why are we taking in so much money? Last week they found $29 billion and they couldn't figure out where it came from. I said, check the tariff shelf. And they said, how did you know that's where it came from? We're taking in billions and even trillions of dollars in tariffs, paid by other countries who, frankly, were taking advantage of us for many, many years. And they were doing that to us, but our people didn't know it. We didn't have smart business people. We've ended Biden's inflation nightmare and came in below expectations, and yet, again, this past month, we set records. Gasoline prices are way down, and really dramatically, as everybody knows, and energy prices have been going down, other than in certain states where you have Democrat-run states where they put windmills all over the place. Anytime you see a windmill, you'll say, well, they have bad energy costs, and it's happening in New Jersey. I saw that there's a revolution going on in New Jersey. They closed up a nuclear power plant, and they're raising electricity rates by 21, 22, and 28%, something like that. And you're going to have a new governor in New Jersey. I tell you what, you have a good man running in the Republican Party. He'll get them down. But what they've done is they've killed so many good sources of energy for very expensive windmills. 401ks and retirement accounts are soaring, and the stock market is setting record highs. Almost every day we're going record highs, and yet we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. So it's turned out that Trump was right and they were wrong. A few smart people knew what was going to happen. A few of us were right. So we're going to keep the fighting going. We're going to make America's seniors every single day. We're going to fight for them. We're going to make them richer, better, stronger in so many different ways. But Social Security is like pretty much the one that we think about, and we love it, and we love what's happening with it. And it's going to be good for 90 years and beyond. Again, you were given only a short period of time. Social Security was supposed to be like down. Had they won the election, Social Security would have defaulted during Biden or Kamala's election, whoever they so chose. Two beauties. And now what I'd like to do is ask Frank to say a few words. Again, this is a man with a really storied past. He's one of the most successful anywhere in the world. What he did at J.P. Morgan Chase and what he did for Henry Kravis and all of the others are like legendary stories. And he just wanted to do this. He's making about a tiny fraction, I would say, a tiny fraction of what you used to make. But he didn't care. He wanted to do it. He made a lot of money. And he said, I want to run that system. I want to put it back on track. And he's got unbelievable talent over there. It's like a different place. So, Frank, would you say a few words, please? Sure. Thank you.
Is less than 1% tiny fraction, sir?
Is that what it is? Less than one? That's a tiny
That's
fraction.
an honor. It's an honor. It is an honor. And I'd like to start off by thanking the president for his tireless effort in running the country and what he's done across the country, meeting every commitment And, I see it directly in the big, beautiful bill, the opportunity that it's brought.
Always a Milwaukee tie, right? As we have the former CEO of Fiserv, of course, Fiserv Forum, the naming rights for the Bucks Arena here in Milwaukee, now leading the Social Security Administration for the Trump administration, and noting the 90 years since Social Security first came into existence back in 1935 under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, signed the Social Security Act into law 90 years ago this week, marking that anniversary today. But we're going to switch gears here on the Wisconsin Live Desk because, hey, whenever we get a chance to have our sports director join us live, especially ahead of a big week for the Green Bay Packers, that is an honor. So we get right to our man, TVV, joining us not from Milwaukee, not from Green Bay, but from beautiful Indianapolis or wherever outside the metro area the Colts and Packers are practicing. Tim, take it away. Where are you?
Hey, Carl, we're in Westfield, which is where the Colts and Packers are going to have a joint practice coming up later this afternoon, and not too far away, to be honest with you. We're going to catch up with Matt LaFleur before practice and then watch the teams go at it. We'll hear from Jordan Love after practice as well. It's a perfect day for this type of deal. A little warm, but, that's how the coaches like it, Carl. Get some sweat going for these two teams. And with the Packers, a lot of starters are not healthy right now. They're also not going to use a lot of starters Saturday in the preseason game between these two teams. So this joint practice today is a pretty good evaluation period for both teams, but certainly on the Packers side of things, some draftees and some players down on the depth chart with a chance to move up or down in the coaches and front office eyes today.
That is certainly the opportunity of training camp. I know we only have you for a limited time here, Tim, so we'll get right to it. Who's kind of popped for you so far in training camp? What do you think the storylines for this Packers team are at this point, still a few weeks out from the games that actually count?
At this point, you have to be very excited as a Packer fan about Matthew Golden, the number one draft choice. You'd expect the number one draft choice could bring you something that you're going to be looking forward to, but he's really delivered so well so far. The receiver position in general has been kind of hit by injuries, so Golden's gotten a lot of opportunity, and you almost have to guard against overusing him right now because a lot of the other guys are out. So we'll see how much he does today, and maybe not even playing on Saturday. We'll see. But he's one guy you'd have to be excited about. Conversely, there, the third-round draft choice, Savion Williams, really hasn't been healthy enough to do much of anything so far. So we can't really say, are they going to have a role for him in kind of that gimmick spot or wildcat offense, that sort of thing? Who knows? Because he has not been healthy enough to be out there so far. Injuries have definitely played a part of preseason and training camp so far, Carl. In terms of players who've been ascending, Anthony Belton is an offensive lineman. You kind of wonder where exactly he's going to fit. I would still say where exactly he's going to fit, but I'll tell you what, he's a pretty good player, and he's pushing for playing time. So if nothing else, that's going to spur the guys ahead of him to do their job at the respective tackle positions. I think that's what you're getting from the top of the draft. And as you go down through the list, Nate Hobson made a good early impression as a free agent player coming over, but he's been out because of injury. What else is new as well? So getting him back into the cornerback room will help at the start of the regular season. In the meantime, a lot of cornerback reps and opportunities there for guys you may not have heard of.
All right, interesting to get those names. You have to go basically be a Tim Van Voren to know some of those names down the roster. Let me ask you this, again, as things have changed, I know we're a few years into the new schedule for the NFL, but the expansion of the regular season to 17 games, the limiting of the preseason schedule, how important is a week like this where you get both the dual practices against another opponent and a game back-to-back for limited practice time for a lot of these guys to make a name for themselves, to get noticed by the coaches, and for the starters in general to get ready for the regular season?
It is important, no question. As you said, limited preseason games, and we're probably heading toward 18 regular season games, which would get you down to only 2 preseason games ultimately. That's probably where the NFL will land. So these joint practices are important. On the Green Bay side of things, again, a lot of starters are not healthy enough to participate today, and that includes your starting quarterback, Jordan Love. I think him missing these joint practices this week with the Colts and then next week in Green Bay with the Seahawks, that's a significant setback. Obviously, Love is a starter. He's been the starter the last couple of seasons, so he carries over a little bit there, more so than if he was a rookie player coming in. But that is a loss to not have him out there with the offense. You want to develop some timing. You're getting a new exchange between the center, Elton Jenkins, and Jordan Love this season. You're not going to get much of that during the preseason in these joint practices. And so that's a situation that the Packers are going to have to guard against getting off to a slow start in the regular season when they're playing the Detroit Lions in game number 1. That really matters, Carl. But these joint practices, as I said earlier, it might seem insignificant. You might not know those names now that are a little bit down the depth chart, but guess what? Those are the names you usually do know as the season goes along if they step forward and become key contributors to a winning team.
Yeah, and you never know when that first look can happen for those younger, newer players. Last thing, Tim, I always love your reporting because it covers the wide breadth of sports here in Wisconsin. The Packers obviously number 1, but a lot of your reporting down there in Indy, I know, has been checking in on some former Badgers, some other people from the opposition, from the Colts side of things, who people would recognize here in Milwaukee. Who's stood out to you? What's been fun to kind of catch up with in addition to, obviously, the Packers coverage that you would do each and every day?
Yeah, it is always kind of fun to kind of see who's on the other roster, who we might have the chance to catch up with. You know, Jonathan Taylor, of course, such an established NFL player at this point, a former Wisconsin Badger. But you have Hunter Wohler, a rookie draft choice, of course, from Muskego and the Badgers. Tanner Bortolini in only his second year from the Badgers. Those young guys, we've heard from them this week here on Fox 6 as they try to grow into their roles in the NFL. They're excited. Let's face it. You're a young player. You're excited. You want to go. This is your dream. This is NFL football. You get to be a part of it. We're going to see both of those guys getting some heavy reps out here today. I look forward to watching both of them. Luke Tenuta is a former Packer offensive lineman. He's on the Colts roster. So there are definitely a few names sprinkled in there that we'll see today, and then looking forward to Saturday's game inside Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, even for those rookies, as big as college football has gotten, there's still nothing like the pros. It's a different level now for those guys stepping up their games. Tim Van Vooren, always our pro, first and foremost for us. Thank you so much for carving out some time. We'll let you get to Matt LaFleur and look for your reports later today here on Fox Local. Thank you, sir.
Outstanding, Kyle. Nice joining you. We'll be with you maybe again this week as we monitor everything down here.
Love it. Love it. Happy to have you anytime you can carve out a few minutes for us. Appreciate it. We'll let you get back to that. Tim's reporting continues from Indianapolis down there for not only the preseason game, but those joint practices between the Packers and Colts. And yeah, an interesting time, as you heard, because of a lot of injuries. Certainly if you're a Packer fan, you don't want to hear that already to start out training camp to a lot of those starters, but an opportunity for some of those people lower down on the depth chart of the roster trying to make their way onto this team to perhaps shine, get a moment where they can catch a coach's eye and see what could happen, weeks down the road if they make it onto the 53-man roster for the regular season. We're going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see what we find for you on the other side. A whole lot happening here in Wisconsin, as we saw in our nation's capital and down in Naptown as well, with the Packers and Colts facing off in those practices ahead of the preseason game still to come. Much more here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is a hazy, hot day in the city. We'll see what we find as we keep things rolling after this.
Manufacturers and others, and she put them out of business. She's a mean, horrible human being.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, right, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defenbaugh hanging out with you here on this Thursday afternoon. It is 12:49. We are going to hear from our political reporter, Jason Calvi, momentarily. He's actually been, like so many of our staffers, on flood coverage and the cleanup efforts happening around the area today. He's going to join us momentarily to tell us about some of the updates on what possible FEMA assistance, federal help, could mean for Milwaukee County specifically and all of southeastern Wisconsin, of course, hit so hard by those floods and rainwaters over the weekend. As we give you a live look here, nice to get a dry spell today. We'll pop around the cameras a little bit for you, showing you downtown Milwaukee as well. Let me pop that up for you right now. And some of the other areas, the blue skies and sunshine definitely needed after all of that record-setting rain that we got over the weekend. The bad news, as you'll hear later in the Wisconsin Live Desk from our weather expert, Stephanie Barrichello, there is more rain in the forecast for this weekend. So we'll see how much drying out and cleaning up can happen before really Saturday and Sunday starts another stretch of rain, although we're certainly hoping nothing near the record-setting levels of rain Milwaukee and other parts got over the weekend. A couple other things we're tracking for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We have our feed of cameras and sources from around the country for you. First and foremost, this is a meeting down in Illinois, so a little bit south of us across the border, some different Illinois lawmakers along with Texas lawmakers who are still in Illinois hoping to return to their state after they basically left so that there could not be a redistricting vote in the Texas House. They could not meet the quorum of necessary representatives to hold a vote, as Republicans were hoping to change the congressional maps in Texas in basically in effect and a chance to add about 5 Republican-leaning congressional seats ahead of the midterm elections next year. Texas Democrats are here in Illinois now discussing some of their efforts to keep that from happening. The governor, Greg Abbott down in Texas, has ended that special session, so many of the Texas lawmakers will be able to return back to Texas, though it remains to be seen if the same things will happen once again, and there's another sort of fleeing of Democratic lawmakers from the state of Texas to make that vote impossible to hold. Certainly shades of Act 10 back in 2010, 2011 here in Wisconsin, what we saw happening in Madison, the state capital, under then Governor Scott Walker, a similar situation. In the meantime, though, we want to get you back to the White House. President Donald Trump has finished some of his remarks specifically to Social Security with the CEO of Fiserv now running the Social Security Administration and now taking questions on a number of topics. And of course, a lot happening both nationally when it comes to the president making the decision to bring the National Guard into Washington, D.C. and take over the policing of our nation's capital. And then, of course, what's happening on the international stage tomorrow when it comes to that meeting between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin planned in Alaska over the war in Ukraine. So let's listen to some of the questioning from the president in the Oval Office.
It's worse than it's ever been, and we will have it just like we did at the border, where with borders are totally in great shape right now, the best ever, record-setting shape. We'll have the crime situation solved in D.C. very soon. And we're also going to beautify the city. We have a beautiful city, but you can't have graffiti, and you can't have roads with potholes, and you can't have the medians, the dividers in the roads falling down on the street. We're going to be beautifying the city, making it really beautiful. We're going to be getting the criminals the hell out of here. We don't want the criminals in Washington, D.C.
Mr. President, one on your Putin meeting and then one on D.C. crime. Are you prepared to offer Vladimir Putin access to rare minerals to incentivize him to end the war?
We're going to see what happens with our meeting. We have a big meeting. It's going to be, I think, very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. Look, we have, we're not paying any money, as you know, to Ukraine. We're supplying equipment. We're being paid 100% plus for that equipment by NATO. And I got NATO up from 2% to 5% of GDP. They now have billions of dollars. NATO is a very rich group of countries, and we make the best military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and they're buying our equipment, and they're paying 100% for the equipment, 100%. In fact, they owe us about $2 billion now. They're going to send a check. Another one was sent recently for $1 billion. So we're not spending any money anymore. Biden gave them $350 billion, got nothing for it. And if you look, and by the way, we also signed a rare earth deal where we get, years of rare earth to get our money back, the money we spent. But what I'm really doing this for is to save thousands of soldiers a week. You have Russian soldiers, you have Ukrainian soldiers, and then you'll have missiles dropped into various cities and towns in Ukraine. And they're losing last week they lost 7,251 people, mostly soldiers, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. I'm doing it for that reason. We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. You know, I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now, and I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult. We had one war raging, as you know, for 37 years. One in the Congo with Rwanda was raging for 31 years. We solved 6 of them, made peace, not just solved them, we made peace. If you look at Pakistan and India, planes were being knocked out of the air. 6 or 7 planes came down. They were ready to go. Maybe nuclear, we solved that. I thought this would be maybe an easier one. It never made sense, this war. It would have never happened when I was president. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But millions of people have been killed. And I'm there for one reason, to see if I can solve. This was Biden's war. This isn't my war. I want to see if I can stop the killing. Yeah.
But rare earths, do you plan to offer him access to that at all?
We have great rare earth. We made that as payment for all of the money that we've spent so foolishly in Ukraine. We spent $350 billion. Now Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money. But we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them, and they understand that. And I think that's maybe why we're not spending money anymore. We're not spending any money. They're paying us for everything. So people are shocked when they hear it. They don't even understand. They don't even write about it. But we're not spending money, but we are spending a lot of time trying to get the war solved. If we can get the war solved, we'll be very happy. As far as rare earth, that's very unimportant relative to, I'm trying to save lives.
And on DC crime, sir, on DC crime.
Do you have a message for the Democrat lawmakers like Nancy Pelosi or media who are saying, after living here for many years, that there is no crime and you're trying to start a new news cycle?
It's another reason why the Democrats lost the election in a landslide. They lie. It's just lie. Look, the crime is very bad. I think they'd be much better off saying, we want to help President Trump with the crime because it's an epidemic. It's a tragic situation. It's the worst it's ever been. And we want to help President Trump with the crime, as opposed to, he's a dictator. He's a dictator. People are so happy to see our military going into D.C. and getting these thugs out. As you know, we arrested a lot of people yesterday. We arrested a lot of people today. We're getting people that have arrest records that you wouldn't believe. 28 arrests, 15 arrests, brutal, brutal people. And we're going to have to do something about this cashless bail, because people shoot somebody, they kill somebody, and they're out on the street in less than an hour. Now, that's when it's all started, in New York, in Chicago, Los Angeles. You take a look. If we didn't go to Los Angeles to help this incompetent governor and a mayor that doesn't know what the hell she's doing, if we didn't go to Los Angeles, you wouldn't have a big part of it burned down. The other part of it would have burned down too. You would have not had, I don't think you would have been able to have the Olympics. We have the Olympics. I have a lot at stake with that, because I'm the one that got the Olympics. I got it in my first term, and I was saddened because I got it for what would be my third term, okay, which turned out to be second term. And the Olympics, it's a great honor, but I felt badly because I said I won't be president when the Olympics came. Well, through circumstance, I am president. I want to make sure the Olympics is great, the World Cup is great, and the 250, maybe the most important of all, is the 250-year celebration is great. So what's happening is we will work very hard. You would not have had, I don't believe that if I didn't send in the troops, I don't think you would have had Los Angeles in condition to have the Olympics. I think you would have had tell him, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go someplace else. And if you look at the police commissioner or the sheriff, he said, we really needed them. Thank God they were here. We really needed them. That was the first 2 or 3 days after we solved their problems. Then he said, well, I think we could have maybe done it. No, he was told what to say. He said, you go back to your files and see what he said. He said, thank goodness they came. If I didn't go and put our military there, or National Guard in that case, and we'll go military if we have to, but the National Guard went there. They were very effective. If we didn't do that, I don't think you would have had the Olympics in Los Angeles. The place would have been just like the 25,000 houses that burned down, where, by the way,
Interesting timing for the president to be bringing up Los Angeles, because actually right now happening on the West Coast. We go from the east in Washington, D.C. to the West Coast. And excuse me, this reporter, the photographer is kind of moving around a little bit. But this is actually an appearance by Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and other officials at the YMCA of Metropolitan Los Angeles' new capital campaign, trying to rebuild the Palisades Malibu YMCA. That was destroyed in January's wildfires that hit the Pacific Palisades so hard and had long served as a vital hub for youth development in the area. They're holding a campaign today, a program to help Palisades residents rebuild more resilient, efficient homes and other facilities like the Palisades Malibu YMCA, a new $25 million capital campaign. And Mayor Bass was actually just at that podium, someone who has become a frequent target and a critic of the president since a number of things, but including the riots in LA when the National Guard was called in by the president, not by California Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, while that continues here in the Oval Office, the president continues to take questions, as you heard, both about the meeting tomorrow with Russian President Vladimir Putin, an attempt to end the war in Ukraine, although it remains to be seen what will come from that meeting. The president also referencing the move to bring the National Guard into D.C. The D.C. mayor, by the way, Muriel Bowser, points out to some crime statistics, and others have as well, that show crime in D.C., in the nation's capital, is actually at a 30-year low. So those are some of the numbers that the president, you heard, countering there, but others have pointed out that crime in D.C. is actually on the down low instead of on the rise in many cases. All right, we are going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Up next, I mentioned that possible federal help from FEMA. That would ultimately require the input of the president as well here in Wisconsin after our major flooding over the weekend. We'll check in with our political reporter, Jason Calvi, after this short break on the Wisconsin Live Desk. How could that happen? What does the process look like? And where would that money go? Coming up next on the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back. It's the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Thursday afternoon, just past the 1 o'clock hour here, 1:04, as we keep things rolling all across the state of Wisconsin, or at least southeastern Wisconsin specifically. The cleanup continues after historic flooding. Parts of the Milwaukee area received more than 14 inches of rain. We know so many areas of Milwaukee County, like Wauwatosa and others, so hard hit, and Waukesha County and others, all just a complete mess after the rain and floods that came through. We want to get you now to Jason Calvi, our political reporter, who has been on much of the flood coverage for us really since those rains came in Saturday into Sunday, Jason. And a lot of the questions from covering other disasters right around the country, you always think, oh, FEMA is on its way. That's the federal group that comes in the case of natural disasters. And the question of what kind of reaches that level. So it's certainly awful for so many people around southeastern Wisconsin. What are you working on today and digging into now a few days removed from the actual rain itself?
So yeah, people listening may remember back in 2008, we had those historic floods as well. And FEMA came in back then in 2008. President at the time was President George W. Bush, and he declared a natural disaster here in Wisconsin because of flooding we had back in 2008. And at that time, FEMA came in. About 24,000 Wisconsinites were able to receive help. And the average help back then from the federal government, we're talking about money, was roughly about $4,000 back in 2008. So that's the kind of the past that we had recently. The question now is what's going to happen with the damages that we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing municipalities. This is Brown Deer. I'm going to have us zoom in. This is 47th and Willow in Brown Deer. And this was a road, Carl. This was 47th Street. And as you can see, it caved in. It's now a massive crater with these cliffs. This road is going to need some major repairs and rebuilds here. That's just one of the costs that's going to come to these communities, and you're seeing this across the area. We saw massive craters, monstrous cliffs in Menominee Falls in Waukesha County. Here we are right now, you're looking at Milwaukee County. So these are very expensive repairs for the municipalities, but we're also seeing homeowners devastated. We've seen these cars that were completely submerged with water that have major damage, and they weren't not able to drive those cars because of the water damage. Those are being towed away. So the status of those people that have those cars that are severely damaged, probably totaled at this point, we'll wait for that final determination from those various insurance companies to see what happens with their cars. But possessions, all of their things, their treasures have been turned into trash. So these are the big questions people are asking across Wisconsin right now is, will I get some help from my insurance company? Potentially, will I get help from the federal government? That is still an outstanding question right now in Wisconsin.
Well, let's start with some of that because it starts at the base level and kind of builds from there. So we know that people hopefully are reaching out to their insurance agents, seeing what their policy might or might not cover in terms of the damage, whether it's cars or homes. But then it comes to the county, the statewide emergencies, and possibly now this request for FEMA assistance. So what are kind of the different levels there, and what still has to happen at the federal level for FEMA to possibly be involved in the recovery efforts here?
So, Carl, just yesterday, Governor Evers wrote FEMA, and some people thought that meant that he was asking for FEMA to come in to bring aid. That's not what there's a whole long process before that money will be handed out by the federal government. We are just in the midst of that. Several more steps, big steps to go before that money could potentially come to people, your flood victims here in Wisconsin. So the first step, and that's what we're seeing right now on the ground in Wisconsin, is local counties, communities, municipalities are going out and they're surveying the damage, like this damage we're seeing right here in Brown Deer. They're going out, they're inspecting it, they're talking to homeowners, they're looking at the property, they're looking at the infrastructure damage. They're coming up with a rough ballpark figure for how much money this is in damages. And today I heard the number from Milwaukee County, potentially an estimate, again, rough estimate of about $20 million in damages, but you can expect that number is going to go way higher as more and more damage reports come in, as homeowners look and see how devastated their basements are with property and potentially having to rip out drywall, hardwood floors, etc., that may have been damaged in the floods, and then mold remediation, all of that stuff. So right now we're just getting those preliminary numbers from the counties, and they're sending them to the state. Just yesterday, Governor Tony Evers said he thinks that the estimated numbers now reach the threshold for the federal government to help. So the next step that he asked yesterday was he asked FEMA to come in to Wisconsin to join what's called a joint preliminary assessment of damages. So that's the next step, is he's invited FEMA to come in to inspect and see what the damage numbers look like. And that's really a second set of eyes, Carl, on what we're finding from the local governments when they're putting together their estimates. So, for example, think about when you cut a piece of lumber for a woodworking project, for example. You're not going to measure it once and then cut. You're always hopefully going to measure it twice and then do your cut, do your saw. Same thing here. The federal government's going to come in as that second set of eyes and survey the damages, like the damage we're seeing here in Brown Deer with this road, the damages that we're seeing on this road with many people pulling out their treasures and now turned into trash. So they're going to get that second set of eyes. So that's the second step, is when FEMA's going to come in and do an assessment to help with the state assessment. It's called a joint assessment. The third step then is the Wisconsin Emergency Management will take that data and come up with a recommendation for Governor Tony Evers. They can suggest or make a recommendation to him, but really federal law says that it's the governor who's the one that has to ask the president for an emergency declaration, a disaster declaration. So we're still several steps away from the governor making that official ask of the president, and then President Donald Trump will have the power to say yes or no, this is a natural disaster, this is an emergency, and issue that declaration from the federal government. Once that happens, if the governor and then the president make these determinations, then it will come back to the FEMA being able to help people with some money to help with their recovery. Like I said, back in 2008, about 24,000 people in Wisconsin got some help from FEMA, from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It was averaging roughly about $4,000 at that point.
Interesting. Jason, since you are our political reporter, I'll ask a sort of politically leading question. We know FEMA has been at the center of a lot of debate on both sides of the aisle, going back to some of the hurricanes that affected parts of North Carolina and the like, certainly played into some of the debates leading up to the 2024 election. Then we have the follow-up when it comes to the Pacific Palisades fires out in Los Angeles and the help that either did or did not come from the federal government to California. We have the floods in Texas recently as well, those devastating ones that killed so many people down there in Texas Hill Country. How has this turned in terms of a political story? What is the state of FEMA right now? I know there was a push to possibly even work it into another department or get rid of it, turn things over to the states. Where is FEMA at these days, and how is it being viewed at the federal level?
Well, I can tell you that FEMA is still doing their work. I know that there's, this flooding that we have in Wisconsin. They are, what I've been told, is actually inspecting some of the damages in Illinois. FEMA for our region is based in Chicago, so it would make sense that they would potentially be surveying the damage closer to their home office first. So we're being told that they might be on the ground in Illinois surveying the flooding damage there from these recent storms. But again, it could be, what we heard from the county today, it could be as early as potentially Monday, where we start seeing these FEMA staff members coming in on the ground to help with those assessments. Here we are Thursday. The flooding took place Saturday through Sunday morning, and so we're still a long way off, potentially, or several steps away, I should say, from President Donald Trump potentially issuing that emergency declaration, the disaster declaration. As far as that national debate over FEMA, they still are an agency. They still have these resources. They still have a job to do. And so what I'm hearing from FEMA in the Chicago office is that they've been closely monitoring the situation here. Earlier in the week, they had told us they hadn't yet received a request from the governor to come in to help. We know that the governor just yesterday asked them to do that next step in the process, which is to come in for that joint assessment. FEMA is working, they tell me, on figuring out the timeline for that joint assessment to come into Wisconsin and help. It's not right now. We're still seeing, again, at the county and municipal level, there still has a lot more numbers to gather. They have that rough estimate right now, but those numbers are going to go higher and higher as they continue surveying the damage, like what you're seeing right here on 47th and Brown Deer. Yeah, we know that cleanup is going to continue for so long. So many people hard hit by the rain and by the flooding that we experienced, historic in many parts of southeastern Wisconsin, just looking for any help, no matter where it comes from, right? And it certainly has come from city, village, and county and state levels. We'll see if we also get some federal assistance here in Wisconsin for the cleanup. Jason Calvi, our political reporter, handling some of the fallout from the historic flooding across southeastern Wisconsin for us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thank you very much. We'll look for your report later today, Jason. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it.
It is really interesting. You hear the terms, right? We do these stories about some of the other disasters around the country and how FEMA is involved, but the actual nitty-gritty of how that happens, what has to take place for federal assistance to come, that seems to be playing out here in Wisconsin. All right, we're going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll get you back to some other local stories and things happening all around the Milwaukee area and our great state of Wisconsin after this, 2 minutes away on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks for watching.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defmaw back with you here on this Thursday afternoon. Sometimes I forget what day it was. It's been a long week. We give you a live look from our Estabrook Park tower camera out there. More of that hazy sunshine as there is some wildfire smoke off along Lake Michigan. So if the breeze kind of shifts, Milwaukee and some of those lakeshore communities might deal with some of that still today. But we are finally drying out. The other amazing story in Milwaukee, and thankfully it's been such a positive one over the last few days, especially for so many people dealing with the destruction of the flooding and trying to look for a little sliver of light, that would be your Milwaukee Brewers. We'll pop this up because, yes, it is indeed burger time. Thanks to George Webb and really thanks to the Milwaukee Brewers, who've won 12 straight games right now. And George Webb Restaurants, as they have for decades, always tracking this. It goes back, I believe, back to like the 1940s or 50s, but has only happened now 3 times in history when the Brewers have put together a win streak of at least 12 games. Then we all get free burgers. And they made the announcement just after noon today about how that'll actually happen, right? These are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of burgers they're going to be giving away. So they need a few days to put some of the resources towards this. But George Webb announced today that they will be giving away the free burgers at all Wisconsin restaurant locations next Wednesday, August 20th, from 2 to 6 p.m. So that is the day and the time window you need to know at all Wisconsin locations. Imagine there will be some long lines as well. There is another option as well, and I'll pull this up for folks. If you can't make that time window next Wednesday for the giveaway, they will also be starting Friday, this Friday actually, tomorrow the 15th. You can go to their different restaurant locations and pick up vouchers that are available for a free burger from George Webb at a later date. So if you can't make it on the big day, that's going to be the celebratory day on the 20th, you can pick up a voucher starting tomorrow at the different restaurants for a free hamburger. Some of the fun, of course, it's only happened twice before, back in 1987. I I believe that was Harvey's Wallbanger, started out the season with 13 straight wins, still the record for the Brewers for their longest win streak. 2018, at the end of that wonderful regular season into that deep playoff run, they won 12 straight games. And then this season, we already were doing this once before, they got up to 11 and couldn't quite seal the deal until last night. Another 11-game win streak turned into an even dozen straight victories for the Crew as they completed a sweep of the Pirates. They get a much-needed day off today to kind of rest, relax, regroup a little bit while they try to see just how high this can go. The best team in the major leagues is rolling right now, 12 straight wins. They now have a 7.5-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central and already up to 76 wins. That is just incredible. Only the Detroit Tigers and the Toronto Blue Jays have 70 wins, and the Brewers are 6 above them for easily the best record in the major leagues. As I mentioned, a day off today for the Crew as they will try to keep things rolling. I believe they head out on the road next, headed to Cincinnati. After this, 3-game set that starts Friday in Cincinnati, and then, an interesting timing for this. They are down in Chicago for actually 5 games against the Cubs. That's because of a doubleheader that starts the series on Monday down at Wrigley, makeup from earlier this season. And we will have the game on Tuesday as well, I guess technically 3rd game of that series, 2nd day. They'll be facing the Cubs, a Brew Crew Tuesday here on Fox 6. And then the big day, August 20th, will be the burger giveaway, thanks to George Webb and thanks to the Brewers' 12-game win streak. We heard from an official with the restaurant group yesterday who said I think they had already ordered an extra like 25,000 pounds of beef just to start stocking the fridge and getting things ready to go for the big day next week. And going back to 2018, I believe the numbers were they sold around 90,000 hamburgers that day alone and gave away vouchers for another 100,000 more. So just absolutely insane numbers as I'm getting a fun reaction here from our live studio audience that we have with us here in the Wisconsin Live Desk today. But yeah, some massive numbers when it comes to George Webb and what the Milwaukee Brewers have been able to do. And you know what? I'll ask our producer back in the booth, Delaney, can we scrub through a few of these different tweets that we have? Because I think there's some other giveaways. George Webb obviously has the big brand name recognition and some of the things coming with it, but they are not the only place capitalizing on just how fun and magical this Brewers season has been so far. Broken Bat Brewing Company, if you're not familiar, a great spot just south of downtown Milwaukee. They actually have an indoor wiffle ball field back there as well. So there you go. They posted something on X. If it received 12,000 likes, and it did, it blew well past that, plus 12 wins in a row for the Crew. $2 tap pints today, starting at the tap room. No questions asked. I like that addendum to that as well. So there you go. You can head on down to Broken Bat Brewing and get a tap pint for $2 today, thanks to the Crew's hot streak. And then the team itself also trying to capitalize. Of course, it is them who are doing all this winning and all this amazing performance on the field. You can celebrate the streak with your Milwaukee Brewers. They are doing a flash sale that ends tonight just before midnight, 12 of course, in honor of our 12-game win streak. The Brewers offering $12 tickets to that series against the Diamondbacks that's coming up at the end of August. So there you go. A lot of ways to capitalize and relish the amazing performance of your Milwaukee Brewers so far this season. They were expected to, perhaps be in contention, but certainly nothing like this. Certainly not the best record by far in Major League Baseball, and so much fun to see what Pat Murphy has done with his group of guys here in town. We'll see how it plays out when we get to the playoffs. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. But it's been a lot of fun so far here in Milwaukee in August. All right, we're going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Some good intel there on how to get yourself a free burger. It is 1:23 on this Thursday afternoon. We'll be right back in 120 seconds.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here. Always love when we can catch an airplane on the tarmac of MKE. So here you go. Southwest has either arrived. Yeah, arrived. Looks like it's pulling into the terminal there. Welcome to town, everyone on that 737 from Southwest Airlines arriving at MKE, our wonderful Mitchell Airport here on this Thursday afternoon. Pretty nice day with that blue. Actually, maybe it is heading back out. Shows you how much I know how things move around the tarmac at MKE. We'll see. Anyway, fun to catch a plane here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We have just a few minutes left before I hand things over to Mary Stoker-Smith, handling the second hour for you here today on Fox Local, as well as the FOX6 Milwaukee YouTube channel. Good reminder as well, the different stories that we've already brought you a little teaser with already today. Jason Calvi reporting on the process it would take to bring FEMA assistance to Wisconsin, and Tim Van Voren reporting live from the Packers joint practices with the Indianapolis Colts. He was about to go hear from Matt LaFleur down there in Indy. All of their full reports will, of course, air on Fox 6 News at 4, 5, and 6, as well as you can find them later here on Fox Local. So good ways to stay in touch with our reporters throughout the rest of the day. A couple things that we're tracking here as well that haven't necessarily started yet, but maybe Mary will bring you over that second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. This is back in the state of California, something that Governor Gavin Newsom is supposed to be holding. A beautiful rally in Los Angeles is the title for this. With 12 different speakers expected before the governor himself. He won't be taking questions, but instead will be at this rally for Los Angeles there. As you can see, it appears to be the announcement of something called the Election Rigging Response Act. I would imagine that's in response to what is happening in Texas. We mentioned that the attempts from Republicans in Texas to change the district maps for the entire state that would likely give Republicans an extra 5 seats that they would likely win in next year's midterm elections. California, one of the democratically controlled states, along with others that have threatened to do basically a counter to that, changing their maps to counter the gains potentially made by Republicans in Texas if that were to play out. One of the other things that just popped up actually on our feeds here, so we'll take you there live, obviously hasn't started yet, but it says Cuomo to build a new NYC. So an expected announcement from Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who lost the Democratic primary in New York City to become the city's next mayor, but as an independent is still expected to be running for mayor in the general election. And you see the sign there, building a new NYC at the site of Local 237. So working with some union leaders, hopefully for their endorsement is what he's hoping in New York City, as the race to become the next mayor of our nation's biggest city is underway with an interesting cast of characters. You have the Democratic primary winner, and Andrew Cuomo, who finished second in that primary, still trying to run, as well as the incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, who is also planning to run as an incumbent independent after falling into some trouble over the last few months and year or so. And you know what? Governor Gavin Newsom just appeared at that rally in Los Angeles, along with some of the other elected officials from California that we're expected to hear from, including Adam Schiff. You see there, Senator Adam Schiff of California, and other Congress members speaking at this rally. So let's actually listen in a little bit. Governor Newsom is supposed to be the 12th to speak at a lengthy rally in California today, but since we heard from the president, let's hear from the Democratic side of things out in California.
Japanese American National Museum, and it's such an honor for me to welcome you all to the museum, and particularly to welcome you to the National Center for the Preservation of Democracy. And it's the place where we gather people together to talk about difficult issues that relate to race, identity, social justice, and the fragility of democracy. And I should add that it's no accident that the museum and the Democracy Center were built on this very site, because this is where in 1942, LA's Japanese American families were forced to board the buses that took them to the incarceration camps for the duration of the war. So for us here at the museum, this is hallowed ground. For us here at the Democracy Center, this is the ground zero point, one of the ground zero points in the civil rights history of this country. And we should note that what happened in 1942 is not much different from what is happening now as ICE is stalking the streets of our city and the terror that ICE is inflicting on our sisters and brothers in the immigrant communities. So it's this. Thank you. Yes. Good for you. So it's the power of this place that drives our mission here at the Democracy Center, which is to ensure that the injustices of the past are never repeated, to stand up against authoritarianism, and to defend the principles that define a free and just society. The center, this Democracy Center, for us is a beacon for democracy, for civil rights, and for memory, because it's our living commitment to ensure that we will not reverse course on our nation's journey towards a more just and equitable future. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now it's my very great honor to welcome to the stage Sarah Sadwani, who is from the California Redistricting Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for hosting us here today in this most historic site. My name is Sarah Sadwani. I'm a political science professor, and I served as a commissioner on the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. In 2020, I had the distinct honor of being selected through a lottery draw. I'm not an elected official. I believe in good governance. And to serve on the California Citizens Redistricting Commission was one of the proudest moments of my life. I had the opportunity to serve with some of the finest Californians. No disrespect to those behind. Democrats, Republicans, independents, we came together and we did what we don't find very often in American politics today. We passed our maps unanimously. We worked collaboratively across the aisle to move forward something that could be fair and just for Californians. And I couldn't be more proud of the districts and the maps that we have today. They're competitive, some of the most competitive seats in the nation. Probably some of you here don't love that, but on balance, for democracy, that's a good thing. It's a kind of thing we should have in all 50 states across this country. We used a community-driven approach. We received almost 40,000 pieces of community testimony from Californians far and wide, and we expanded opportunities for communities of color, communities that have long been historically excluded at the ballot box, for Latinos, for Asian Americans, and for Black Americans to elect the candidates of their choice. But these are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. We have witnessed masked gunmen kidnapping our neighbors off the streets, and my understanding is they're outside waiting to do it again. We have seen not just the toleration of political violence.
While this continues out in California, it is 1:34. We're going to do our handoff here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Mary Stoker-Smith, standing directly to my left. Woo! This very cramped closet is getting even more crowded. She'll be taking over the second hour here on the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Thursday. We're going to leave you with this rally from California to handle the handoff, so to speak, and she will be back with you after this. Thanks for watching on this Thursday.
In their graves. And we have to take action. These are the hallmarks of a democracy in peril. My political science colleagues, Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt, who authored a very famous book at this point, How Democracies Die, wrote, "Protecting democracy requires more than fright and outrage. We must be humble and we must be bold." I'm here today to be humble, to set aside the good work of California, but I do so with the expectation that this is a one-time occurrence, that this does not subvert the will of the people of California. And I call upon these many leaders who have joined here today to be bold, to fight for American democracy, to not just pass maps for 2026, but to fight for independent redistricting in all 50 states so that we can level the playing field of a representative democracy. Thank you. And now we'll hear from Jody Hicks.
Wow, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here today. I am Jody Hicks. I'm the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California. So thank you. Representing 7 affiliates, over 100 health centers throughout California, and standing here in the strongest of support of California's response to Texas, to any other state's attempt to rig this next election to hold on to power. And I want to tell you why. If you remember, it was not that long ago that this administration changed the rules to appoint anti-choice justices to the Supreme Court with the mission to overturn Roe. And that's what they did. 50 years of protections that women had are obliterated because of this Supreme Court. And what they tried to tell everyone, it's okay, we're just putting the rights in the states. So California responded. This governor, these policymakers behind me, we responded. We doubled down on our values here in California, our commitment to reproductive freedom. Voters responded. Voters responded with a constitutional amendment here in California to protect reproductive freedom. Voters responded to what was happening across the country by flipping congressional seats here in California, by kicking out those anti-abortion extremists in an attempt to flip the House. And despite that, despite the voices of the voters here in California, just 3 weeks ago, Congress, all 9 Republican Congress members here in California, voted to defund Planned Parenthood. They knew it would disproportionately target California because we have invested in improving access to reproductive health care, because those are our values here in California. Our health centers, there's over 100 of them. Over 80% of them are Medicaid patients, our most vulnerable communities. And they didn't have the votes to do a outright ban, so they did a backdoor ban, which is essentially putting economic sanctions on Planned Parenthood health centers for providing abortion. So what does that mean? No federal funds go to abortion services, so we're not talking about attacking the service. They described a Planned Parenthood health center, and they will no longer pay for all of the services that we provide. So we are talking about STI and cancer screenings. We are talking about birth control. We're talking about sometimes prenatal care, that they are taking away access, taking away the choice for those Medicaid patients to come to their most trusted place, which is Planned Parenthood. So what do they think the voters' response will be to that? I'll tell you what it'll be. It'll be, you take away our freedoms, we'll take away your seats. We'll flip the House. They know that will be the response, but what are they going to do as a response to that? They're going to rig elections. They're going to rig elections in Texas, wherever they need to, in order to ensure that they have power. So let me be clear. If Republicans are successful in consolidating power, safeguarding their majority in Congress, a national abortion ban is not off the table. And while California voters, we enshrine the right to abortion in our California Constitution, but a federal ban would override our state's protections. And we can't let that happen. We can't sit idly by while the Trump administration, while their backers in Congress pursue every avenue to strip blue states of their autonomy, of people's fundamental rights. Republicans in Washington, across the country, they continue to become more bold. They're more brazen, they're more cruel. And if we do not fight back, they will continue to seize unfettered power, defy the will of the people, and threaten the health and well-being of all of us. So 3 years ago, we stood before California voters and asked them to stand with us to put protections in our California Constitution. And guess what? 67% of Californians did that. So today I'm standing before you again, asking those same Californians to once again protect reproductive freedom, protect the values of California, and stop Donald Trump. We have to fight back. It is the right thing to do. It's the necessary thing to do. And this is California. We don't have another choice. Thank you. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Erica Jones with the California Teachers Association. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Erica Jones, and I am the Secretary-Treasurer of the California Teachers Association, a union of 310,000 public school educators. I am also an elementary school teacher here in Los Angeles. The Trump administration is waging war on every public institution we hold dear. In the short few months he has been in office, he has worked with Republicans, including 9 from California, to freeze funds for critical education programs, including after-school programs, teacher trainings, and migrant education programs. He's cut health care for millions of our students and their families, attempted to dismantle the Department of Education, and pass a voucher program designed to destroy public education entirely. There have also been unprecedented attacks on our immigrant communities and our LGBTQ+ students and families. The Trump administration removal of schools as safe zones from ICE has unleashed a level of trauma and fear that no one should have to endure, let alone our children. Just this week, a 15-year-old student here in Los Angeles was detained by federal agents outside Arleta High School. Our students deserve better. The majority of Americans are not with him on these vicious attacks. So what does Trump want to do? Rig the next election and steal our right to fair representation? He wants to stack the deck to keep slashing public services to pad the pockets of his billionaire donors? I taught my kindergartners to be kind and to help each other, not to cheat and be a bully. Y'all, 5-year-olds get it. Why can't he? I'm here today because educators across California, from Calexico to Crescent City, are ready to fight back. We spent months reaching out to the 9 Republican representatives in California. Several refused to even meet with their local teachers in their offices. Some lied directly to our faces and promised they wouldn't vote for draconian cuts to our schools and our health care, only then to go back to DC and side with Trump and vote to harm our kids and our families here in California. Given these extreme threats and these corrupt politicians who will throw their own communities under the bus, our union stands in full support of this ballot initiative. We are ready to do whatever it takes to stop this power grab and fight back against any and all attacks on our democracy, on our students, and on public education. It is now my honor to introduce Lorena Gonzalez, President of the California Federation of Labor Unions.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Mary Stoker Smith coming at you right now from the Wild Desk, and we're going to leave California and bring you back here to southeastern Wisconsin right now. You were listening to a rally for the California governor out there, but we're going to switch back to local. If you haven't stepped outside, if you haven't looked outside, it is a glorious, glorious day, not just because of the weather, but because of the sizzle on the grill. That's a little tease. More info on those free George Webb burgers coming our way because the Brewers are hotter than the grill. We're going to take a quick break, come back with a weather check for all of your weekend plans, and also give you more details, more juicy details on the George Webb giveaway. Keep it right here on Fox Local. We're coming right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Good afternoon. Mary Stoker Smith coming at you from the Live Desk here in southeastern Wisconsin. So glad you're with us today. We have so much to get to, but I think really there's so many headlines of the day, but probably number one has to be the weather. It is absolutely scrumptious out there. Beautiful blue skies, and with all of the flooding, with everything that we've been going through, everybody crossing their fingers for a dry day. Hopefully that will maintain and keep everything going right there. We want to keep this streak going as the Brewers are keeping their winning streak going stuff. So let us know. I mean, it's beautiful so far, but again, we need multiple days because so many people trying to dry out.
Yeah, right. Hey there, Mary. It is nice to have another sunny day today. Yesterday was beautiful too. Most of tomorrow is looking dry and sunny as well, although I do think maybe tomorrow night we'll start to see some rain rolling in. And then unfortunately our focus does shift over to more rounds of rain and thunder heading into the weekend. It looks like Saturday and potentially into Sunday, a couple rounds of storms, and same with Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we've, yes, got 3 straight days of sunshine and dry weather. I wish there were more, but already now watching another round of potential, activity heading into the weekend. Now it's gorgeous here locally. There is actually a little bit of wildfire smoke up towards the north. Not a ton, but you can see this is just up north in Manitowoc, how it looks just a little hazier. It's not out of the question that later on this afternoon and even later this evening after sunset, we do see a little bit of that moving in. All morning long, we've just been watching this little plume of wildfire smoke out over Lake Michigan. So for now, it's still out there. Most of it actually on land or overland is up near Green Bay with a little bit up towards Manitowoc County as well. But we'll watch what's out over Lake Michigan. Again, it's possible that, even later this evening, just ever so slightly makes its way into southeast Wisconsin, then lifts northward, because come tomorrow, we have that southwest or southerly breeze kicking back in. So that's going to push a lot of that way up towards the north. So again, it just goes to show how nice it still is here locally today compared to how gorgeous it was yesterday too. So more dry time ahead for Friday. There is some rain out west right now. We'll watch that, but it's expected to stay west of us for now. Again, maybe Friday night, a possibility to see some of that. Just quick check of air quality, since we were just talking about some of that wildfire smoke. Again, it's thin. Even up towards the north where it's present towards Manitowoc County and Green Bay, the air quality is in that moderate category, which does not trigger an air quality alert. So it just shows that it's of the thinner variety, but we may still see a little bit of haze later on today. Let's focus in on some of those river flood warnings. This map looks a lot better than even yesterday when we still had, I believe, 4 separate river flood warnings in effect. 2 have been allowed to expire. So the 2 that continue, the Cedar Creek in Cedarburg and then the Fox River in Waukesha. Now the Cedar Creek, that's actually expected to fall below flood stage overnight tonight. So that would prompt that river flood warning to go away by early tomorrow morning. If everything goes according to plan, the Fox River in Waukesha, that is going to take a little bit longer. That flood warning goes until Saturday morning. So with another dry day tomorrow, I think it'll really, really help, but it may still take some time. And since at the beginning of this, we were talking about another chance for thunderstorms heading into the weekend, it's worth mentioning that these river flood warnings may eventually come back. We, of course, don't see the type of flooding we saw over the weekend. Even just tacking on another inch of rainfall could allow for some of these warnings to be back. So it's going to be a weekend, I think, where we need to keep our guard up just because it's additional rain in the forecast. Now, also worth mentioning right now, it's still a little early. It's only Thursday. A lot of our models that we use to forecast putting some of the heaviest rain across northern Wisconsin right now, that would help us out at least a little bit, but it's still just too early to really talk specifics. Thankfully, we're quiet today. We're quiet tomorrow. There is that rain off towards the west. That's going to gradually fizzle as it moves eastward here. So really not going to bring any impacts to our area. However, that is out ahead of a warm front. We've got pleasant temperatures out there right now. We're in the 70s, we're in the low 80s. That's how it was yesterday too. As this warm front gets closer tomorrow, we're going to start to feel that humidity jumping a little bit. Dew points will gradually be back to, middle and upper 60s. Today they're in the low 60s, and air temperatures tomorrow will start to climb back to mid 80s. And then Saturday, we have the chance to reach 90 in between some of those thunderstorms, plus those dew points are going to be back to 70s. So that is also a signal too. When we have some of the higher heat, we have some of the higher dew points that could allow for pockets of more heavy rain. Remember, with higher dew points, it's more of that tropical rain that we see here. So all the factors are there for the weekend to need to watch out for that potential, both Saturday, Sunday, and even into early next week. So we're quiet for now. Again, let's try to get as much done as we can here in the next couple of days when it comes to cleanup. And I know it will take longer than that, but also just keep in the back of your mind that we do already have some rain chances just in the next couple of days.
We had our expert on talking about ways to dry out and preserve things, and he said, really it can, if you got fans going and dehumidifiers going, particularly with all this sunshine, it should make things a little bit easier. But everybody just looking for a little window to grasp onto for the cleanup and the dry out. So, but it's just such beautiful weather. Steph, before I let you go, I do have to tell you, as somebody who does suffer from asthma, as a lot of our viewers do, maybe watching, or maybe they have underlying health conditions, the haze doesn't seem as bad, and the air quality, I feel like, at least for me, my breathing is better. So when you talk about that haze, it seems to be more dissipated than it had been in the past.
Yes, this is nothing. Even up north, this is nothing compared to what we experienced, what was that, a couple weeks ago, yes, or even last week at times. You can see a little bit of it, and I think what we see right now is more so at the higher levels. Everything at the surface near us is actually out over Lake Michigan. So our air quality is just fine right now. Now, if we see some of that somewhat thicker smoke, nothing compared to last week, but somewhat thicker smoke out over the lake move inland, then we could start to see maybe a little bit worsening air quality going forward this evening. But at this point, we're doing okay for the afternoon.
Yeah, it's looking really good. And good for the evening. It's jazz in the park and so many weekend events going on. Before I let you go now, you don't have to tell everything, but at least tell us one thing that you're looking forward to for the weekend with your husband and your girls.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, where I live, we have an event Saturday evening that is all about music. So looking forward to going to that. Also really hoping to get to Irish Fest. Mary, I'm embarrassed to say we have not been to any festivals yet this summer besides Summerfest. So we are so overdue. We didn't even make it to the fair. We were going to go on Sunday, but all the rain. So I'm really hoping to get down to the Summerfest grounds for Irish Fest.
You bring up a good point. A lot of people who missed out on that last day. There were a lot of disappointed kids who didn't get on the rides or get their cream puffs. So yeah, Irish Fest coming through. Yeah, that's great. All right, Steph.
Can't wait.
Yeah, right, exactly. People will be looking for you. Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
All right, Steph, thanks for that. All right, before we go to break though, again, I got some details on this George Webb giveaway, these free burgers. Brewers, as you know, a day off and then they're going to be out of town, but we're going to keep the momentum going. We need to keep that going for them because you know who they face next week? The dreaded Cubbies. It's all right, we got this. We're hot, 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 just like the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side with a lot more information, and we're going to help you through the rest of the day and through the weekend. We'll be right back. Keep it here.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And we're back, everybody. Good Thursday afternoon. What a glorious Thursday to be with you. I'm going to get a little, I'm short, so I'm standing on a box. Full disclosure, I just want to get a little close and up personal with you because we have that exciting news. All right, I know that you know this, but it's just so fun, so let's take it back, right? If the Brewers won 12 in a row, that meant not only a win for the Brewers and better for their standings, although they already have the best record in MLB baseball, it meant free burgers for us. And everybody is losing their minds. Let's bring up the information for you. All right, this went out from George Webb. This is on X, former Twitter. It finally happened for the third time, only third time in history. We're giving away free burgers at all locations. So yesterday we teased, we didn't know when it was. I'll tell you more about that. But we did find out at noon today it's going to be August 20th. And August 20th is next Wednesday from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. You got 4 hours to get in on the free burgers. So make your burger bash plans right now. Of course, George Webb is saying congrats to the crew on their 12th straight wins. Let's keep the streak alive. Oh yeah, it is so exciting. We talked to the CEO last night. I got to share some tidbits here because it was really exciting. After we found out this news, and we didn't know exactly when they were going to give them away, so I kind of pressed the guy that we talked to last night to say, okay, when are we going to be hearing about the giveaway there? His name is George Stam, and he said we'll have the announcement, as you know, as you just saw today. But he said this is what he had done. We talked to him about 9 o'clock on the anchor desk, Ben Handelman and I, and he said he had just, about an hour before we went on air, 7, 8 o'clock at night, put in an order for 25,000 pounds of meat. That's right, and he expects to serve up more than 100,000 burgers for that tradition that is going to happen now for only the third time in history. So again, 25,000 pounds of meat, 100,000 burgers expected to be dished out with all of the toppings. And then he said the other thing that is going to be going on there is obviously, when you show up, he said, there are going to be long lines, but he said it's a great way to strike up a conversation to get to know people in the community. Because I said to him, boy, we've all hosted a party. We've all hosted an event where maybe there was food involved. This is a grand event. What do you plan to do to keep the lines in check and keep the lines moving? And so they kind of have an assembly line where somebody's going to be dishing up the burgers, and then you got the mustard and the ketchup, and it's a nice line. But he said everybody in the past has been so patient and so gracious. So if you are headed out to one of the George Webb locations to get that free burger on August 20th, again, just kind of think about that. Probably will be a little bit of a wait, but this is a great chance for baseball aficionados to maybe get some stats, talk baseball, but also a chance to get to know people in our community that maybe you don't have a chance to connect with. But this has been such a fun event. We saw the game yesterday, as a lot of you had, and we saw the Brewers were up by quite a few runs, and then all of a sudden I think they were down to a 1-run lead, and then all of a sudden they surged back up. So this team has done such a great job, and with Skipper Murphy at the helm, it's been so excited because he's been talking with Ted Perry, answering your questions about some of the things that you want to know about. For example, somebody asked, hey, are the racing sausages, are those races fixed? Doesn't Skipper Murphy, Pat Murphy, call the winner ahead of time? And he's like, absolutely not. So he gave a little insight on that, but no, he just doesn't fix them. But it's just funny to see your questions going into the skipper there. It's been fun to get to know him. And I always say, if you don't like the Brewers and you don't like Pat Murphy, we can't help you. They're such a good team. They're such a great team to root for, and the smallest, of course, team in the league. So we got to support our hometown team, and especially through this run, it's been really, really exciting. Again, we had that tweet. We're going to talk more about the Brewers. Let's see what else we can do, because it is even quiet on the roadways. Like, I even want to show you something going on the roadways right now, our interstates, our highways, our freeways. It is free flowing on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. As we heard from Stephanie Barrichello, temperatures are to remain very, very comfortable, low humidity today, and that Canadian wildfire smoke that we've been seeing, barely any in sight today, which has been such a relief. I know the last time I was on, it was really thick and you could almost smell it and taste it in your mouth as you headed out. So this is a good day to get outside, do some gardening, get a walk in, and for all of the people who are doing the cleanup, still cleaning up after that record flooding that we had last Sunday, this is certainly a sign of good things to come, hopefully, and hope that cleanup can resume and maybe some things can get dried out. But of course, our heart goes out to all of the people dealing with that flooding aftermath. It's been devastating to see those pictures and just to hear the stories of trying to pour through the paperwork on insurance policies. We have so much information on our Fox Local app, on our website as well, about ways to get help, people that you can call. And the Mayor Cavalier Johnson, and other city officials have been urging people to call 211 to report any damage and any thing that they need help with, because that's the only way that they can know where some of those trouble spots are. We are also waiting for word on exactly how much FEMA can help out. That declaration going out from Governor Tony Evers yesterday that he had reached out to FEMA because we are looking for some assistance here in southeastern Wisconsin from so many people who need help, but we also need that financial assistance so that we can get things going here. And hopefully with that federal request in effect right now, people are looking for relief, and the federal disaster relief hopefully coming in a big way. But anyway, as we continue to look on the roads right now, we can take away, sorry about that, I came back to we just wanted to look at some of the graphics, really quiet and dry out there. We're going to regroup. We have a couple things we want to get to, including some health news that we're working on right now. News that just came in a couple minutes ago. I'll tell you more about that on the other side of the break. Keep it right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Happy Thursday to you. Glorious afternoon. We'll get more on the weather in just a little bit, but I wanted to bring you up to speed on something that just happened as I was literally walking in to our Live Desk area right now. It really caught my attention. We have some health news here. There has been a push right now, breaking news, that new high blood pressure guidelines have been tweaked a little bit right now. This coming from the American Health Association. They just sent us an email, in fact, and they are saying that they are teaming with the American College of Cardiology to reduce the, obviously, amount of people with high blood pressure, but they're also looking at some new guidelines. So they're saying right now they're really pushing lifestyle modification for the prevention of high blood pressure and for treatment for blood pressure. They're saying right now that they are looking at really kind of pushing out lifestyle guidelines, reducing salt and also reducing alcohol intake. They are saying that nearly half of all adults in the U.S. have high blood pressure, and it is the #1 preventable risk factor for all cardiovascular diseases. It's also being linked to dementia. And so right now, these new guidelines reflect several major changes since 2017. So that may be the reason for this push, that they really haven't done a really big overhaul in a number of years. And so they're looking at basically different and modifications of blood pressure meds, and they're also looking at what is going to determine high blood pressure and if it's going to affect you at some point right now. They're saying that there is a high association with cognitive decline and dementia, and these new guidelines recommend early treatment for people diagnosed with high blood pressure, and they're looking at the numbers there. They're looking at the top number, of course, and the bottom number, that correlation with high blood pressure, but they're looking at that is kind of a tag board, if you will, to try to lower those numbers and reduce dementia. There are tailored approaches to medication for the high blood pressure now that they're looking at, but they're really saying when you get into your doctor, you know, be screened. If you have a family history and if you know of any changes to your, you know, rhythm, if you will, if you're feeling a little bit different, to really get in and talk to your doctor, of course, about these high blood pressure risks, but they're emphasizing the prevention and the early treatment. And so by that, they're looking at these new guidelines. We're going to try to get some information up on that. But they're really saying, again, really watch that alcohol. We talked about getting out and walking today, such a glorious day. We did a study recently that said, it was kind of a eye-opener that said 11 minutes, just 11 minutes of walking can boost your cardiovascular threshold. It can also reduce your risk of dementia, Alzheimer's, and also lower your blood pressure. The reason they did that, in part, was because they were saying a lot of people feel as though they can't exercise for a long period of time, or if you are just starting out, that maybe you should look at, you know, just a little bit here or a little bit there, and really that's all that it takes sometimes just to get something going in your system, right? So just a little bit of walking and a little bit of movement there. So these guidelines, we're going to try to get some more information on that in a full screen here so you can take note of that. But it said here that the American Health Association, they reached out to us to say that they have a link to this website that we're looking at, and basically these new high blood pressure guidelines are really just more about early prevention, and they're really kind of stressing that people get to their doctors. They're not really giving any new numbers that we can see. Let's try to dig into that. But, you know, in terms of any symptoms that you may have, anything that you may be seeing, it also may underscore the importance of doing a yearly checkup with your doctor and being monitored for high blood pressure. When it comes to those kits that you can do on your own, that may be something that they're pushing for more. The kits are readily available. Sometimes they can be free depending on what healthcare insurance you have, but also a lot of times at some of your drugstores, you can get your free blood pressure screening done right there on site there. So again, we're going to tap into a little bit more of those blood pressure guidelines, but just something to keep aware of. Let's give you another live look at the weather right now, because, or at least look at some of the graphics, because you can see here, satellite and radar showing beautiful blue skies. There's just nothing going on. Even the Canadian wildfire smoke has really dissipated quite a bit. So we just have these beautiful sunny skies, not a lot of haze, gorgeous temperatures right now, and very low humidity. Great day to get out and take a walk. Even the roadways here just looking real clear. If you have anything going on for the weekend, as we mentioned, some activities going on tonight like Jazz in the Park. Good time to get out to Cathedral Square and celebrate some music in our wonderful city. Let's give you one more map here, because again, I'm just looking for anything to show you. But all we see is beautiful blue skies. Beautiful out there, lovely. Let's come back with another check of the weather. We're going to tell you a little bit more about George Webb, maybe give you another little nugget, and then we're going to give you one more check of that health as well. Keep it right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Much more to come.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, everybody, on this gorgeous Thursday afternoon. Are you getting out there? Let 11-minute walk. Oh, yeah, the dog would appreciate another stroll around the block. Another great day to get out the grill. Grilling has been a little bit limited this summer for some people with the Canadian wildfire smoke, and maybe it's just been a really busy summer. So much going on, so tonight's the perfect night to do it. It also may be a good night to get that grill out, to get your taste buds tantalized and ready for the free burger, the free grilling that's going to be going on next week, and it's all because of this. George Webb. Oh, yeah. As you know, the Brewers won 12 in a row, and so that means George Webb is stepping up to the plate, and it's a home run for all people here in southeastern Wisconsin. This has really been a wonderful, wonderful event. It's just so rare that it happens, but it's just fun because it gets everybody excited about Brewers, about baseball, and about summertime here in southeastern Wisconsin. You know the drill. I'm just going to take it back to yesterday when we talked to Ryan Stamm. He is the vice president of George Webb. We talked to him live on air during our 9 o'clock newscast last night, Wednesday. And he said, yes, today he would announce when those George Webb burgers would be handed out. But in the meantime, he said, you know, I've been really busy. I just ordered a few hours ago 25,000 pounds of beef because they are expected to serve 100,000 burgers, probably more, next week to all the people in southeastern Wisconsin at a George Webb location. When the Brewers hit that 12th straight win, that's when the red light went up, if you will, for George Webb. Yeah, Brewers blue and gold, but it also went up for George Webb. So we're going to give you details right now. It finally happened. George Webb sending out this tweet, if you will, on X. For the third time in history, we're giving away free burgers at all locations. It's going to happen next Wednesday, August 20th, from 2 in the afternoon until 6 o'clock. Congrats to the crew on 12 straight wins. Let's keep that streak alive. So those are the times that'll happen. So you can either get a late lunch, get a dinner, get in line, but yeah, free burgers for everybody. They have an assembly line that they are looking at basically to put all these burgers together. They're going to be serving them up, of course, at all the locations, and at all those locations, you better believe all of their staff is going to be standby, ready, and ready to go. What they do is they basically have one person on buns, one person on meat, probably more than that. One person's on the ketchup, one person on the mustard. And so these restaurants, as you can imagine, are going to be packed. We talked to the vice president yesterday about, you know, if people were going to be kind of crowded in there, how are they going to do that? You know, lines are going to be wrapped around places like this. This is the George Webb in Brookfield. And he said, you know, the last time we did this, albeit it's been a long time, 1987, people were very patient and people were very kind. So people are excited, and it'll be a good time to get out there, maybe talk baseball, as I mentioned earlier, with some of the people that know baseball best. And it'll be a great time also to talk to people about what this means for the Brewers. I mean, how awesome is this going to be? Because this never happens. And I think it's just a great celebration with so many people dealing with, you know, cleaning up from the flooding and all that we've been through this past weekend. This has been really, really nice, just as a way to say, hey, we can have something to celebrate, something to bring us some joy, something to bring us some comfort. So this is a beautiful, beautiful way to celebrate our southeastern Wisconsin community, and of course to celebrate one of the great pastimes of summer, baseball. So again, those are the details. Next week, August 20th, they're going to be serving those burgers up, and they are available to everybody. We were just so excited to talk to Ryan Stamm last night. I said, hey, can you give us an idea, because we didn't know last night, when these are going to be served up? And he said, I can't tell you. I said, well, is there any day in August you're not taking off? That was kind of my way to try to get him to spill the beans, but he said, no, can't do it. We're not going to be doing that. So anyway, now we know. For right now, we're going to be talking about this a lot. Our Abril Preciado is talking to people about what this means to them and just more about what their plans are to celebrate the Brewers baseball. But this has been great. Again, that's a live picture from the George Webb in Brookfield. If you're wondering about where the locations are, we have those on our Fox local mobile app. Check it out. And also you can just go to our regular website, fox6now.com, to check out where a George Webb is in your area, how you can get that free burgers. But again, you know the time. We're going to give you that tag board one more time so that you can see that. Mark your calendars. Again, August 20th, 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So that's happening next Wednesday. So that'll be a fun thing to do for you and the kids and the family, especially something to do fun before the kids head back to school. We're working on a lot tonight for our late newscasts that are going to be going on a little bit later. I'm just kind of looking at some of the things in our rundown right now. Again, we'll cover George Webb. We'll be talking about that a lot. We also are going to be talking to David Crawley on food, on flood relief efforts, from everything from food to medical supplies for people who need supplies, for those who've got concerns about cleaning up from the flood. Yesterday, the day before, we've been showing you all of the places that's important to have all your stuff go that you're dumping out. These dumpsters have been filling and filling up, and it's so important to be able to know exactly where to go to throw the things out, when those will be available, when those big bins will be available for things to throw out. We're going to be trying to look here at some, see if we can get a picture there of some of the places there that we can take you to throw your stuff away. There we go. They're drop-off sites. And there we go. The drop-off locations in Milwaukee. Now, again, these are free of charge for all people impacted by the flooding. The centers right there have expanded their hours. I don't know if you remember, initially they were just going until 3 p.m., but they've expanded their hours because there are so many people who need to drop off things that aren't salvageable, meaningful items that just unfortunately can't be saved. And so these are the two drop-off centers right now for Milwaukee, 3879 West Lincoln Avenue, and as you can see there, the other one on North Industrial Road. They're going to be happening from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and they're going to be open through next Sunday. Now again, these hours expanded. So in the meantime, they could expand even more. We'll keep an eye on it. But for right now, those are the two drop-off centers in Milwaukee. If you've been impacted by flooding, we are urged to go to those drop-off centers. In addition to that, all of the city leaders have been telling people to call 211, that it's so important to call 211 to report any damage that you have in your area, because they are saying we need to know where these, whatever it is that you need, give us the concerns, tell us where the flooding has happened so that we can target those areas. We need to make a report to make sure that we know where everything is located, like the center. I just had somebody send me a Facebook message last night to say, you know, we still have a lot of flooding in our area, believe it or not. Several days later, there's a lot of ponding going on, and so you kind of want to avoid those areas. The county officials also have talked about just saying, hey, you know, make sure that you're being clear of these areas, make sure that you're being safe and clear. They were talking about making sure that you wear big gloves, of course, those rubber gloves, waders if you are going into areas. And when you are in your basement, if you're in your basement, you may want a mask on just to make sure that you're not breathing in any really bad materials. They're also saying, you know, the best thing is to get the carpet out. We talked to a lady yesterday who was trying to salvage her carpet from the basement. But a lot of times, as we talked to our expert the other day here on Fox 6, he had said some of that mold that could be hampering some of the cleanup areas, but some of that mold can get in there, and after 2 days, sometimes it's hard to see. So there could be mold in some of those areas in your basement where the carpet is that can become toxic. So if at all possible, break the carpet into chunks and get it out of there, even if you're just trying to dry it. But humidifiers, even if you can borrow a humidifier or so, and to just get just any fresh air in there. And luckily with the dry air right now and the sunshine, it should help that clean up a lot. But it's just been devastating to see all of the absolute devastation going on over and over and over again. So we talked to Chris from Oh, he does cleanup from all of the flooding, and he just gave us some really great tips. The other thing that we do want to underscore and mention is be careful of scammers. Sadly, as people are drying out and still cleaning up from the flooding, scammers often will make sure that they come in and they try to zoom in and, you know, capitalize on a very vulnerable and emotional situation. 9 times out of 10, if somebody shows up at your door and says, oh, I can help you out, a lot of times they're not legit. You've got to make sure you do your research, check with the Better Business Bureau to see what kind of information they have on them, what kind of a rating do they have, is there any information, but never jump on somebody just showing up at your door saying, hey, I'm here to help clean up. That will never happen. You have to call, and oftentimes it can be a tedious and long process to call because so many people are swamped right now, cleanup companies. Also check with your insurance company to find out what coverage you may have and what they advise going forward for all of this devastating cleanup. So just a couple things to keep in mind. We have information on our website, and again, Fox Local, on some of the tips that the Better Business Bureau is giving, and also to make sure that you don't fall prey to all the scammers right now trying to take advantage of the cleanup going on in our area. The good news is, let's give you a live look outside right now, because I'm looking at all of the radars and all of the maps right now, and it's just gorgeous out there if you want to get out and do some just some walking even today, but also for the cleanup. It's been a really, really good day to get out there. As you can see here, no rain in the forecast, as we heard from Stephanie Barrichello a little bit earlier. Clear skies, not a lot of smoke from the Canadian wildfire haze that we have been seeing. So a good day to get out and about if you are doing that cleanup and just wanting to get outside, get some fresh air, especially when you look at some of the saturation that we have seen in the basements and even some of the saturation that we have seen around the city streets. We saw a huge, huge amount of water yesterday out at Cafe Hollander and Wauwatosa, because they're right on the river, as you know, right there. And so a lot of those areas are still ponding, and they're just full of water that just needs to be soaked up. And hopefully with this weather today, dried out. Another look at the satellite and radar there, where you can see lower humidity today, beautiful blue skies, beautiful out there as we try to dry out from all of this wet weather that we have had. It's been nice because, again, with this Brewers win and with the sunny skies, with these free burgers, it's been a little bit of a boost right now. Less emotional anguish, more sunny skies, and maybe a good sign of things to come, that we are past what has been just devastating flooding. So much flooding, nearly 2 feet of water hitting southeastern Wisconsin. As you know, last weekend, the Wisconsin State Fair, as we mentioned earlier, having to close a day early, making their 11-day run down to 10 because there was just too much water and it was unsafe. So this is beautiful to see these beautiful blue sunny skies in our area. So we're going to invite you to go to our Fox Local mobile app to check out all of the information on the cleanup, on, again, those drop-off locations, as we just showed you where to drop things off, how to make sure that you are free of scammers, and how to make sure that you get your free George Webb burger, happening again next Wednesday, the 20th. Send us your thoughts on that, too. Are you excited? Are you going to get in on this George Webb giveaway? Where do you plan to go? And I don't know, it's probably a good time to bribe the kids and say, you know what, kids, if you do your chores, if you get your summer reading done, now parents are looking at trying to get kids to bed a little bit earlier so they don't make the transition from summertime sleep to school time sleep so difficult. Maybe it's a way to bribe them, right? If you get to bed even 10 minutes earlier, we'll get you that free George Webb burger. Before we leave today, we're going to give you one last look at that again. The great tweet going on today, and this is all the talk of the town. August 20th from 2 to 6, you're going to get that free burger from George Webb, thanks to the Brew Crew and their 12 straight wins. It was such an exciting game to see, and it's such an exciting time to be here in southeastern Wisconsin. Brewers off today. They play this weekend. We are going to keep our eye, of course, on the Brewers. And then next week, Ted Perry and Sam Kramer are heading down to Chicago, because that's when the Brewers take on the Cubs, and we know what happens then. Yeah, things are definitely heating up. We're going to leave you for now. We'll be back soon.